Dear children, now we celebrate Mother's Day every year. Many of you must be giving your mothers gifts. Many of you might be cooking breakfast for her or dinner for her or taking her out. But do you really respect her? Do you give her the due credit that for all the work that she does for you, for all her dedication? This play that we are going to do today is Mother's Day by J.B. Priestley. This is a play written in 1953 England and touches on the concept of feminism and the due respect that we should give our mothers for in return of all their dedication and hard work in the home. It has five characters: Mrs. Pearson, Mrs. Fitzgerald, they are friends; Doris and Cyril, they are Mrs. Pearson's children; and George is Mrs. Pearson's husband, Mr. Pearson. Now, before reading this play, before studying it, you must keep a few things in mind. This was written by a male playwright. Back then, feminism was a new concept and not everybody wrote about it. And the mention of feminism brought about raised eyebrows. Now, Mrs. Pearson is the quintessential English housewife. She stays back at the home, looks after the needs of the family and the household machine, and does not go out very often, does not work at all outside the house. There are social and personal causes behind Mrs. Pearson's problems. The society at that point of time in England was like that. Women were supposed to sit back at home, look after the family and not work. And there are personal problems also because her children and her husband do not take care of her. They don't look after her needs. They don't even probably consider her as a person who has certain needs and desires. They only consider her as the mother. So this day is her day as she changes things. How? That we will study later. Mrs. Fitzgerald is her savior. She helps her in changing things over her house. And the tea is a symbol of oppression. The tea has to be made when everyone comes home. Even if they don't want it, the tea should have been made. They demand tea, they expect it, and that is how they limit the mother's role to the house. And one more question that is important is, will she be able to maintain the changes? Because as you see, they will take help of magic. And will she be able to retain the changes in her personality and the household? That is something to be questioned. Now let's talk about the play. Mrs. Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald are friends. They are having a general chit chat, talking about things, and then suddenly she says that she is very upset. Mrs. Pearson is very upset because she wants attention and respect which is lacking in the household. Her children and her husband don't attend to her, don't respect her, don't give her the due credit, and don't take care of her needs or desires. Mrs. Fitzgerald says that she should put her foot down and talk to them. Mrs. Pearson says that she tries talking to them but she is not able to assert herself. She is a weak character. She is not very assertive or aggressive. On the other hand, Mrs. Fitzgerald is a very aggressive character. She has her own set of ideas and she has even learnt magic. So she suddenly devises a plan, and in the order of that plan they change personalities. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald becomes Mrs. Pearson and Mrs. Pearson becomes Mrs. Fitzgerald. So the new Mrs. Pearson or Mrs. Fitzgerald leaves, and now the changed Mrs. Pearson waits for her family to come. She does not prepare the tea. She sits at the table smoking when her daughter walks in. The daughter says that she wants her yellow silk ironed and she wants tea. She says, Mrs. Pearson, the mother says, the tea is not ready. She hasn't made it because she didn't feel like it. She didn't want to. And she will not iron the dress. She can very well iron the dress herself or not go and choose not to go. When she says that I want to go out with my boyfriend Charlie Spence, she says that he is no good as such. The daughter is very surprised, Doris. She is very surprised. She is appalled at the change that the mother has brought in and she doesn't know what to do. Then the son also walks in. He also demands tea and he wants something to eat because he has been working all day. So the mother says that I have also been working all day. I in fact work all day, all week, and now on she will not work from Saturday to Sunday and she will only do a certain amount of work only as a favor. Now the children are very surprised. They don't understand what's going on, and they discuss that maybe she has hit her head somewhere and she has become mad or she has become rambling. So they wait for their father to walk in and see the drama. Now the mother has taken to drinking also, which she doesn't normally do. She doesn't drink beer normally at home, and she's now, not even now, she hasn't prepared tea. Now George walks in and demands why she's drinking. He is very surprised, and he also demands tea. He says, have you made tea? So she says, no, I haven't. And he says, I didn't want it, but you should have made it. That makes her more furious and angry, and she tells him that the club that he is planning to go to that night, everyone at the club calls him the Pompey Pearson. George is livid and upset, and when Cyril confirms it, he is very, very upset. He decides not to go to the club. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald, who is now Mrs. Pearson, walks in, and she sees the situation and is distressed. And then suddenly she says that now Mrs. Fitzgerald says that she wants her body back. They both discuss that will she be able to maintain the changes, and she says that she will try. So again there is a magic thing, and they change their bodies. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald leaves, saying that she should keep asserting herself and not let this change go waste. And so Mrs. Pearson tells her family that she wants certain changes, and George and his children ask what she wanted, and she says that she wanted them to sit together, have dinner and play rummy with her. And now the family readily agrees. So this play is more about how a mother is able to make her family realize her importance. And why should there be use of magic? It is a symbolic thing. Drastic measures are required, and a change of personality is required to bring the family back to their senses and to appreciate the mother. The themes in the play are, it is of course a dedication to all mothers who give up their lives, their desires, their needs for their children and families. They dedicate their whole life, and we take her for granted. We take our mothers for granted. We don't try to understand their needs. It is also an appeal that we should respect our mothers who give all they have for our well-being and happiness. Now we must understand and question whether this play is still relevant in our society. I think yes. We should, on our part, go home and respect our mothers more and try to see with their point of view how hard they work.